Ladies and gentlemen, everything around that and in between, welcome to this video. My name is Toby, also known as Yukomai, and I'm the class master for the class of Sorcerer on the Aion 2 Discord. Now, class master doesn't mean I am the best of the class, it simply means that I am a form of community helper for the class of Sorcerer, alongside with Emily Hartz from the Aion 2 Discord, who is also a class master of Sorcerer in the Aion 2 Discord. The link to the Aion 2 Discord is in the description below, should you not be a member yet. You can join us there and ask questions you should have maybe after this video, or if you want to suggest your own build ideas and everything else there is to talk about Sorcerer. Now, this video will be talking about the class of Sorcerer. The game is out for a week, so we know a little bit of things now. We are probably level 45. We have a bunch of skill points to spend. All of that we can go over in this video. This video might be a little bit lengthy, so if you just want to see, for example, just the Stigma skills or just the rotation, then skip ahead. I will put down some timestamps for you to navigate throughout the video. For now, I am level 45. I've already played quite a bit, and thanks to Emily Hartz from the Aion 2 Discord, we have also quite a bit of info already about skills, and quite a bit of people have tried out quite a bit of different things, so we are in a good spot to talk about the skills. Now, if you are wondering if you should be playing this game in the Aion 1 or in the Aion 2 controls, I highly recommend you use the Aion 2 controls. Aion 2 plays a lot more like Blade and Soul, for example, and not like Aion 1. It's fundamentally different from the style of combat, from the style of fighting. You have active dodging, you have action combat targeting, mixed in with some tab targeting, yes, but still it will be fundamentally different, and you want to have that free camera on your mouse instead of the mouse cursor, I guarantee you that. And also, well, the game is designed for Aion 2 controls. Aion 1 controls, in my opinion, are more like a gimmick to people who still want to have that nostalgic feeling of Aion 1. But you will probably run into more difficulties with the Aion 1 settings. So, now that we have that question out of the way, let's jump into K, which is our skill window. Down here below we have our skill bars, and we can preview all these skills here. Now you will probably already notice that my skill bar is looking a little bit different from yours, and you can actually swap around these skills as you please here, and you can also change the hotkeys in the settings, of course. I will go over why I've put these skills where they are in a bit. For now, let's talk about each skill individually and how you want to approach that skill, perhaps in leveling. Flame Arrow is your very bread and butter spell. It's placed on left mouse button and R, and it is also the only skill that cannot be moved anywhere else. This skill stays there. And this skill deals decent damage. It's a 3-hit chain attack with the Flame Arrow first, then the Burst, and then the Pyroclasm. You see the damage is rolling up, so the last hit of the 3-hit combo is dealing the most damage. This spell gives you back mana, MP. You can weave it in between your spells, which we will go over later in the rotation section. This spell is pretty important. It's not your main damage source, but crucial to your other main damage sources. So you want to max out this skill ASAP. Every skill can be pumped up to level 10 with skill points. You can see already here we have the max level reached. And further skill points will come over the Daevanion board, which we will also get into later. Now you want to have this skill at least on level 8 for now, when you're going to level up. And choose the multi-hit option, simply because it deals more damage. If you're struggling to survive, you can also choose the absorption of HP from the damage, but this is not quite as effective as another spell, which we will get to in a second. You can also always freely change these around. It has no cost to reset the chosen effects here. And what you really want to do is pump this skill to level 12 ASAP. So you want to use the Daevanion Boards to get extra skill points in it. Or pieces of equipment that are giving you extra skill points. Because then you will get this, which is putting a fire mark after the third hit, which is Pyroclasm. And this is quite crucial for our rotation later on. But that is all about the Flame Arrow for now. If you are really lucky with your equipment, you can get it up to level 16, which will be very, very good, because every time you hit the last hit of the chain, the Pyroclasm, it will reset the skill of Blaze, which is this one over here. But let's go in order now. On your right mouse button or on T, you have the Ice Chain. And Ice Chain is an AoE spell that slows enemies in groups of up to 4. So it is good AoE damage to clear small groups of mobs, but don't get too ahead of yourself and pull the whole room, because it's only 4 enemies. So if you pull 10 enemies, you will get in trouble anyways. And what you want to pick here as an upgrade, but it's not a priority, but you really want to cut down on the MP cost, because this one doesn't recover MP, it costs quite a bit of MP, and the 20% MP cost is really good to keep on spamming this skill. And I wouldn't put further points in it. You can even see I have only put it to level 7 and I've got 1 point over a board or a piece of equipment. Yeah, it's from a Daevanion board. It's not worth to put more in, at least for now. Then we have the Firestorm, and Firestorm is also a very crucial skill to your rotation. You want to pump this skill up to level 12 very fast. Same as the Flame Arrow. The fire skills, generally speaking, are your main damage sources. So these are the skills you want to focus on, and we will get over that. And the first upgrade you want to choose here is the skill speed. Maybe you want to wonder why the skill speed and not to mobile skill. Because the point is, if you have the mobile skill, the animation is still quite long and it's locking you in an animation. If you have the 20% skill speed, it's not locking you in place for long. And it's also much faster in your rotation, because the animation is much faster. So you're less animation locked and can keep on spamming other spells. So I said you want to get this as fast as possible to level 12, and that is because each of those fireballs is going to cut down 1 second of your Hellfire, which is your big damage spell. Getting this up to level 16, I'm not quite sure if it's worth. If you're getting it, it's nice to have. It's 10% damage per fireball, so basically 10% damage in total extra. It's nice, but it's not crucial to your rotation. So if you have the choice between Flame Arrow level 16 and Firestorm level 16, choose the Flame Arrow. Then we have Bitter Cold Wind. And Bitter Cold Wind is an AoE spell again. Ice spells, pretty much all ice spells are AoE and CC focused. And this one is an okayish spell. I wouldn't put much point into it while leveling, but if you're starting to max out around level 45, it's worth to put in like 8 points. And then I would choose the pull effect, because you can pull mobs together and it makes easier to clear rooms and mobs. But keep in mind also, this again, only 4 enemies. Never get more than 4 enemies or it won't work on all of them. And it's not quite worth to put much more points into it unless you're probably getting to the points where you get level 12, because then you have multi-hit. Now multi-hit, I have to explain probably. Multi-hit is not exactly working with like 100% extra damage. It's not hitting the same spell twice, but it's hitting for a big extra portion of damage. It's always worth to go with multi-hit. It's the same reason why we have the 50% chance of multi-hit for our Flame Arrow. It's simply more damage, and that beats pretty much all the other upgrades. But for now, just keep this on level 8. for the pull effect. Coming to another bread and butter spell, this one is Blaze. Now Blaze is a skill that you want to pump right after Flame Arrow up to level 8 and choose the absorb 30% of the damage as HP. Because this pretty much eliminates the need for potions for you in early game. This spell deals decent damage and the 30% of the damage as HP is huge. I've been healing around level 30, already like 600 HP, and this spell has only 5-second cooldown. So this is quite frequently used. You will never need to gobble up potions much during leveling, because this pretty much defeats all need of potions. If you get even more points into it, you will choose the delayed damage after. Simply because it's just extra damage. You don't need to change this to a mobile spell because the animation is really quite fast. And this spell is also one of those spells that you want to push for level 16 in late game, because it will decrease the cooldown of your buff, which is the Wish of Concentration, by 3 seconds every time you hit it. And again, this one has only 5-second cooldown, combined with the guaranteed flame mark to trigger after each third hit of Flame Arrow. You will be spamming this spell and reducing your cooldown accordingly. Flame Scatter is a skill I would completely neglect during leveling, because this one is only used on bosses that are being stagger broken, so when their blue bar is broken. So when the stagger gauge is broken, it enables the Flame Scatter shot. But during leveling, you don't need this at all. The bosses you are facing are pretty easy in itself, you hardly will get to use it, so any skill points put into here during leveling are simply wasted. Once you are in the late game around level 40, level 45, however, you want to start pumping this skill, because it will deal good amounts of damage in dungeons, in boss fights. You will use this quite frequently then, because with a party you will also stagger the bosses a lot more. And I've chosen to go with this one as a mobile skill, simply because you can move around while holding the button, which means you can still keep dodging things while spamming it, but you can also reposition yourself behind the boss while using the spell. And attacking from behind the boss means to deal bonus back damage. So this is quite helpful. And if you are going for level 12 on this scatter shot, I would definitely take the guaranteed multi-hit. Because, as we talked about earlier, multi-hit simply means more damage. It's not exactly 100% more damage, but it is a decent amount more damage. If you are lucky enough to get this one to level 16, it will use the -3 second on all skill cooldowns on hit, which means since this is hitting like, I don't know, 5 times a second, you will rapidly decrease all of your cooldowns, which means every time you stagger the boss, you pretty much get a complete free cooldown reset. Frost level 1. This one is more or less a utility CC spell. It's not quite that useful for boss fights or for DPS or for anything really. I think this might be quite a big spell for PvP, but other than that, it's really only used for the 10 stagger gauge damage, and you won't use it besides from that, because the damage is neglectable. It's not worth using it. Pretty much the same goes for the Winter Shackles. This is pretty much a utility spell. It's going to freeze all enemies around you and slow them down. Not worth putting any skills in it. It's a high cooldown skill that deals mimic skill damage. Then we have Frost Burst, which is pretty much just the combo skill for Frost. Same thing, you can't even freeze bosses, so this won't help at all against bosses, and it's simply dealing not enough damage to be worth using. Then we have Wish of Concentration. This one is your big buff. This buff will not scale in its stats when you pump it with points, so you can kind of neglect it at first during leveling, but you definitely want to pump it up later, because then the duration increases. As you can see, it's now up to 16.5 seconds from the original 10 seconds. and you can also choose bonus effects. I've gone with the 5% additional attack here and the 10% combat speed, simply because you don't need the mana points. Mana is not an issue for Sorcerer, since you're pretty much basically spamming Flame Arrow, you're always getting mana back. And not forget about Blaze, it will also restore 100 MP every 5 seconds. So we really don't have much mana issues. So we can skip over those and instead opt for even more damage with the combat speed and the additional attack. And getting this to level 16 in late game seems also to be quite worth, as it will reset all your cooldowns by 10 seconds whenever you're popping the buff. And then again, if you have Blaze, by reducing the Wish of Concentration cooldown by 3 seconds, you see the theme is going with Sorcerer in late game is you're going to play a lot around your cooldowns, you're going to reset your cooldowns a lot. And managing your cooldowns and your rotation will be quite crucial to maximize your DPS. Then we have Hellfire. This one is your big PP damage spell. This one hits like a fucking truck. Many people have not realized this. This is going to charge up 3 times. You need to hold it down to keep it pressed and charge it up to level 3 to deal the maximum amount of damage. This one you wanna pump full with skill points after you've done Flame Arrow and Firestorm and Blaze, and then you want to pump up the Hellfire skill. Hellfire on level 8, I would change it to a mobile skill, which allows you to move around while you're casting it, which is really helpful to dodge things during boss fights or to kite mobs and so on. Here, changing it to mobile skill actually makes a lot of sense. As I said, it doesn't really make a lot of sense with Firestorm. The animation is just too short, and the same goes for Blaze. You don't really need to be mobile during these because the animation is only like 300 milliseconds. But for this one, it really is worth to change to a mobile skill, and also because at first I was running the Flame Zone, but this one is really not that worth it. The Flame Zone deals very little damage compared to the initial hit damage, so it's not really worth to use that. Instead, if you get to 12 points, you want to ignore the block and evasion, and it will make that the Hellfire also lands as a multi-hit, and the multi-hit on Hellfire is huge. It's not double the damage, but it's a massive amount of more damage. And then we have Defiance. People that have played Aion 1 will know this as the remove shock, and people that have played Blade and Soul know this as the trinket, as the tap escape. This one allows you to escape CC. It's not worth to put any points into it into the early game, but in late game it will be quite nice to pump this with a little bit of points to choose. In my case, I've chosen the 20% HP recovery after you've been stunned and you use your trinket. You get some HP back, which will most of the times be needed, because if you've been CC'd in any form, it also means you have been hit by some kind of damage slap in the first place. So getting some of your HP back there can be quite life-saving. And that is all of the active base skills you have. Now let's talk about passives, because you can also put skill points into these. Firemark. Firemark is getting triggered by Pyroclasm, as we have it. It's also a random chance of 20% to land with any of your fire attacks. So any of your Flame Arrow, of your Fireballs, of your Blaze, of your Scattershot, all of these skills can trigger the Firemark. It's a debuff on the enemy that allows you to deal bonus damage when hitting an enemy afflicted with Firemark. Now in the early game, this is not really worth to use or pump much points into it, simply because you're not triggering it at all as often, and it's also not that much additional damage. Or the damage additional is actually okay, but the chance is low. But once you're getting more multi-hits in, then you will trigger this a lot more frequently, and then it's getting better and better with each time. But yeah, this is definitely a low priority one. Put this after you've pumped some points into the other skills. For example, into Robe of Earth. Robe of Earth will simply increase your maximum mana and your mana regeneration. This one is quite good, but I would put this behind the Robe of Flame. But yeah, this is definitely a good one to pump. Getting simply more mana and more mana recovery will help you get through your rotation without running out of mana ever, pretty much. Cold Snap is not that useful. Cold Snap is, yeah, working with the ice skills. Whenever you're hitting a slow, you have chance to deal some extra damage. I'm thinking of putting this like very, very last in my skills. I haven't pumped it yet. But yeah, it's definitely not worth to put any skill points into it early. However, it is worth to pump some skills into the Robo Flame. This one will simply increase your attack, and your attack means more damage. Pump this as much as you can. It will really help with dealing more damage. It's quite simple. Absorb Essence is a big bait. This one maybe sound a little nice to get MP back with every attack, but the big but, it scales terribly. You can see you get like 1 additional mana back per level. It's not worth the skill points. Do not put any skill points into it. It is an utterly waste. And you will also see it's the 18 MP, they don't even matter. It's pretty much irrelevant. You don't need to get your mana back because you're getting plenty of mana back from other resources. Then we have Grace of Resistance. I would pump this as one of the last passives. This one will simply give you some default resistance to all type of mental and impact-based CCs, which will help you, yeah, survive just a little better, and it's also a lot more relevant for PvP, I imagine. A Robe of Cold for PvE, don't put any points in it. This one is also completely waste, because it requires you to get hit by an enemy, and we don't want to get hit. It's that simple. You wanna kite, you don't want to get hit. Grace of Enhancement, on the other hand, is really good. It gives you a flat 20% attack more based on your current mana threshold. Now, with more points, the mana threshold will continue to reduce, because at first it is if you are above 75% mana, and if you start pumping points, it actually decreases a lot. So for my current level, it's pretty good with the... Pretty much, as long as I'm above 50% mana, I am getting the 20% attack, and I'm pretty much all the time over 50% of mana. Then we have Revitalization. This one is a skill I just started to pump with skill points last, and at first I didn't quite like this one, but now that I've been into some of the harder dungeons, the conquest dungeons, this one has quite often saved my ass, actually. Because once you are dropping below 10% HP, it will give you a flat amount of HP back. And it's not a small amount if you start pumping skills, if you start pumping points into it. It's actually a decent amount of heal that will save your life more often than not. It's really, really quite good. And it's also increasing your default status effect resistance. So you will start to resist a lot of the bosses' stuns or knockdowns or knockbacks with those 22%. That means every 5th CC of an enemy is going to miss. Combined with the other 23% of the impact type CCs and the mental type CCs, you're pretty much going to ignore a lot of these CCs, so this is not that bad, but it's definitely not a priority because it's not for dealing DPS, it's just a tool of survival. And last of the passives is the Vitality Evaporation. This one is quite good to pump with skill points after you've maxed out your Flame Robe and your Robe of Earth, I'd suggest, and maybe the Grace of Enhancement and the Fire Mark. This one will simply make every hit you do deal bonus damage as long as the target has a HP threshold over a certain level. The threshold decreasing actually when you're putting points into it. Now for clearing trash mobs and during leveling, again, this is not quite crucial, but once you start to get into boss fights, bosses are obviously going to stay above 80% HP for a little while longer. So this is just going to maximize your early DPS. And that is pretty much all about the basic skill setup. Now the reason I've put these skills where they are on my hotkeys is let me explain it quite like this. My 1, 2, 3 are the ice skills, the utility skills. They are used to just stagger break the enemy or CC groups of mobs, but they are not frequently used. Then I have the buff on 4. We will get to Stigmas in a moment. I have the big Hellfire on Q and everything else on E and the Flame Arrow on R. So we can get into a little bit of a rotation showcase right now with this Scarecrow. And basically, you simply can spam E and R and tapping with your, for me it's the middle finger and index finger, and you simply are going to press E and R, and that is pretty much your entire rotation. One thing you need to be aware of, this is a priority list. So whatever is lowest on the priority list will be used for first. This is why I put Scatter Shot lowest, because if a enemy is staggered, I want to use Scatter Shot and I don't want to use either Blaze or Firestorm. Now I always want to use Blaze before Firestorm, so Blaze has a higher priority than Firestorm. And Firestorm is last, but since the other two skills are based on a condition, it will pretty much always be ready unless one of those conditions is met. So far, that's quite clear. And if I have to clear some AoE mobs, I simply can press the right mouse button or T and use the Ice Change to delete some mobs. Now we've talked about all of our skills getting up to the level 10 with skill points, and you're going to get more of these skill levels by pumping the Daevanion Boards. There is 4 boards that you will unlock with certain level thresholds. Here, this one is with level 40, this is level 30, level 20, level 12. And the way you want to approach these boards is you want to focus on the orange nodes, which are the core nodes, which give you, for the first board, it's cooldown reduction and attack speed. For the second boards, it's damage boost and damage tolerance. And for the third board, it's critical damage and critical damage tolerance. And for the last board, it's actually multi-hit resist and multi-hit chance. So you're always getting the part to counter it and the part to gain it. And yeah, you want to focus on getting to the orange core nodes while getting everything on the way there. So you want to dodge skills like Ice Chain, as I said, those are not needed. Frost Burst, you don't need it. Winter, Bitter Cold Wind, not that needed. So you want to dodge all those skills we just talked about, which are not quite that useful or mandatory, and instead focus on your flame skills and your passives and getting those up. I would always recommend finishing one board first before moving to the next one. In total, you need around 330 points to finish all 4 boards. Remember, you gotta zoom out on the last board because it's that big. You focus on your core skills, on your flame skills, get the passives after. And once you finish all of the boards, you can start thinking about maxing out some of the ice skills anyways maybe, or you can just focus on searching for stuff like here, getting an extra 5 attack bonus, or focusing, finding here's some critical hit if you want to reach for that, here's some more attack bonus, so you can start collecting just some additional stats once you've finished all the boards. But yeah, that's the way I would approach it. Go through one board by another, get to the core nodes, and make sure you get all of your important skills on the way there. Stigmas are actually the thing we are discussing the most on the Aion 2 Discord in the Sorcerer's channel right now. There seems to be a lot of variation you can achieve here with the Stigmas, and you will also need to change the Stigmas a lot if you want to play especially PvE and PvP, because you will fundamentally change the way you play around your Stigmas and less around your normal skills, which you eventually will all get up to a level where you the effects you need. so they are less relevant than the Stigma skills. Now the problem is that the respecking of the Stigma skills is quite expensive. I really hope they are going to add some form of skill chain, skill pages, skill presets, so we can save that. Because right now, like, re-rolling a single skill up to level 10 can cost 300,000 key now, which is ridiculously expensive. Now, let's talk about which Stigmas you want to choose. A lot of us were running the Steel Barrier at first, and during early leveling it's really quite good, but it falls off in late game very fast because the shield is not scaling with your HP. So 1400 shield is a lot if you have 3000 HP, that's a third of your HP. But once you're having like 9000, 10,000, 15,000 HP, that shield is simply minuscule. And it's not getting much better if you pump points into it. It's simply not scaling well. And the second thing is that the effects that you get from reaching certain skill levels on it, they are also only active when the shield is active. So once your shield is broken, the effect is gone. And the HP regen, for example, is very, very bad. It's like 115 HP every 2 seconds. Yeah, that's terrible. Once you're having like 10k HP, that's nothing. So I think the Steel Barrier needs a little revisiting. Perhaps some HP scaling, like, I don't know, the shield is a fixed value, like 1400 plus 10% of your maximum HP, and the HP regen is like the 100 HP every 2 seconds plus 0.5% of your max HP. That way it would be a lot more useful, but the way it is currently, it's really falling off very, very fast in late game. Like, you definitely want other skills over the Steel Barrier, especially since you're going to struggle less with surviving in late game once you get your rotation flowing and you get quite a good amount of lifesteal from skills like Blaze. So yeah, you can think about choosing this one, but I don't recommend pumping any points into it and replace it later in late game once you are struggling less with survival. Then we have the Divine Burst. Now, Divine Burst is not a high priority spell. I recommend choosing that one a little bit later, but it's mainly used for stagger breaking. As you can see, this one does 50 stagger gauge damage, which is a lot if you compare it to skills like the Bitter Cold Wind, which is 10, or the Frost, which is 10, or the Ice Chain, which is 2. So you see 50 is a very lot. You need that to have it around with you, especially in certain dungeons where you need to break the boss's stagger gauge for at specific times to trigger a mechanic or to prevent a party wipe. So you will need to have this around in a dungeon, I'm quite sure of it. It's also worth taking in 5 skill points. If you got 5 skill points ready for it, then the animation will simply be a lot smoother and faster. As you can see, if we switch back to it, it is quite a lengthy animation. It takes quite some time to get off, and triggering it a little bit faster is okay, but it's not a high priority. The damage will also go up just a little bit. It's not scaling that well, as you can see. From 5 points we barely get 1000 damage. Not that good. One thing that is quite good is the elemental enhancement, in my opinion. We are still discussing whether it is really worth it, but it is increasing your fire and your water attack by 10%. So it's just an overall 10% damage buff for 10 seconds. Of course, the time goes up if you pump points, and you also get bonus benefits. But so far they don't seem to be that worth to take. Then we have Curse 3. A little bit different here. While in Aion 1, putting an enemy to sleep was raising its elemental defenses. Here it is actually reducing the fire tolerance by 20%. However, this doesn't seem to be a good choice for PvP. If we look at our own stats, you're going to see that we have a default polymorph resistance rate of 45.5%. So half of the time, that spell is simply going to miss. Unless you have a massive polymorph chance increase, which I currently don't. So Yeah, this one doesn't seem to be that good to choose for PvP. Even though when you hit it, it is quite good, because you get basically a free wombo combo with a delayed explosion and the Hellfire. With the increase in fire tolerance, you're going to slap a massive amount of damage. Entirely based on chance, it's not good. It's not reliable. It's not worth to spend a Stigma slot for. Arctic Armor also seems to be a more PvP-oriented skill. It reminds me a little bit of Wintry Armor, but it's not actually reflecting damage back. It's simply going to increase your defense by 20% and has a chance that the enemies that attack you are being frozen. Yeah, I don't think it's that worth to take even for PvP, unless you're playing around a little bit more with it. But yeah, it's still, for PvE especially, definitely not needed. Then we have Soul Freeze. This one is the Silence spell. This one has a 75% fixed chance, so it overrides any resistance or hit chances. So the chance is always fixed. Now I don't quite like that it is just a 75% chance. It decreases like the overall RNG in a fight, and it's not that reliable. But the silence actually lasts for 5 seconds, which is huge. And this one is quite worth to take with you in PvP, I'm quite sure. Then we have Cold Storm. Cold Storm is an AoE ice spell. I think this one might actually be quite good for like large-scale PvP, like group PvP. I've seen some Koreans running this one in the Abyss. It's quite good, but for PvE not worth it, and for 1v1 like arena, it's also not that good. Then we have Firewall. This one is right now the most negligible skill, I think, simply because bosses move around a lot. They move out of the fire zone. The fire zone doesn't seem to deal that much damage also, and yeah, there are simply much better spells. I think that's the biggest point against Firewall, is that there are simply better options to take. Then we have the Liminal Space, which is an AoE airborne, and this one has a 100% chance to hit. So this one is definitely a must-have for all you PvP players out there. Now we're coming to a spell that will be quite crucial for PvE as well as maybe PvP. And that is Delayed Explosions. It's dealing a good amount of damage after a short delay of 4 seconds. And during that 4 seconds, it's going to reduce the damage tolerance by 20%. So the defense of the enemy is going to be reduced by 20%. And this one is quite worth to pump with 10 points, because then you get 10 seconds off the cooldown, which will let it line up with your other cooldowns very well, and I will show that in a sec. Yeah, but this one is really quite good, because you're putting down the defense, it allows you to hit with your big spells even harder. Really, really quite good. This one is pumping my damage up the most right now, I think. And once you're getting used to your rotation, this one works wonders. And last, I've removed the shield which I was running previously and placed Glacial Smite. People from Aion 1 will probably still remember Glacial Shard being a big damage spell. This one is a big damage skill. It's also instant compared to Hellfire, which is casted. This one hits instant with a massive amount of damage. It deals also a good amount of stagger gouge damage. And it will also be AoE against 4 enemies. I've put 10 points into it to get 30 seconds off the cooldown. Simply getting it out more often means more damage, works quite nice, and also the 20% stagger every 1 minute. And last is the Assault Bombardment. I'm really not quite sure what to think of this, mainly because it requires you to get into melee range, which I don't see to like a lot. I know it's the same for the Airbind, which is also like in melee range of 5 meters, but this one is like straight up head engaging into enemies, which is neither good for PvE or PvP in my opinion, because this one is not giving you a hard CC after. It's only a 100% chance of frost on NPCs, but everything else not. Yeah, I don't know what to think about that. It's also only available if you're gliding, so this is really gimmicky if you're like in open PvP and you're jumping down a mountain and you're going to gank on someone. I imagine it can be quite fun, but it's really not that good. For those who are wondering how I get 2 skills up to level 10, once you've done all the Rift quests, you get a lot of the Stigma shards. And also, if you go into Plus here, I've already bought 1 extra Stigma shard with 25k AP. And so far, this doesn't seem to be capped. So if you're not investing your AP in PvP gear at first, you can pump up your Stigma skills by quite a lot if you got the AP. But AP is going to be a whole different topic. I just wanted to mention it because people might wonder how I'm getting 2 skills up to level 10. And now that we've talked all about our skills, let's talk about rotation. And your rotation is going to work in 20-second intervals. So that's the reason why we wanted to get the delayed explosion up to level 10, to get the 10-second cooldown off, because then it has 20-second cooldown. And you will see why that is important in a moment. And usually you want to start off with your Wish of Concentration and your elemental buff. So you're gonna buff up before you're hitting your big burst combo at the start. So you've hit your buff, you're going to hit your delayed explosion and charge up your Hellfire up to level 3. And right after that you're going to hit the Firestorm before moving into your general rotation of spamming R and E pretty much. So let's show how that works. Oh, we hit our buffs, we hit our delayed explosion, we hit our Hellfire, massive damage coming in, and now we can start rotating with E and R, always making sure to get off the Firestorm as soon as possible, as it's going to reduce our Hellfire. And you're already going to see now Hellfire is ready and we have our delayed explosion ready, and now we can hit Hellfire again with massive bonus damage and repeat basically. So every 20 seconds you're going to hit a massive amount of damage with the Hellfire and delayed explosion. And in a minute there's going to be your buffs ready again for the biggest combo. And you can pretty much, just spam E and R. You can throw in some ice skills in between, but it's really not that necessary. And now we have our buffs ready, so we pop our Wish of Concentration, we hit the delayed explosion and Hellfire again, and that is a 1-minute rotation. It's quite simple actually. You see, it's not that complicated once you lined your keybinds a little bit. It's pretty simple. Just make sure to have the priority for these skills correctly set up, and then it's pretty easy. And Sorcerer is a very, very strong class, as I feel right now. In most dungeon runs I've been taking the aggro even from the Templars, because I'm simply dealing so much damage. So yeah, damage-wise this is really, really big. Yeah, now for the general rotation I've of course forgot to mention Glacial Smite. And you can pretty much just throw that in before the Hellfire. I think most of the times, if your ping is okay, it is fast enough to hit with Hellfire as well. Yeah, that is pretty much all I've got to say after 1 week of playing the Sorcerer. If you have any questions left unanswered, you're welcome to join the Discord of Aion 2 and meet us in the Sorcerer channel. Again, the link will be down in the video description below, but you can also leave comments here under this video. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet. I would be really happy if we maybe can hit the 1000 subscribers with Aion 2, which would be quite special to me, since I basically started my channel with Aion 1. So reaching a milestone like 1000 subscribers with Aion 2 would be really, really cool. But other than that, if you have any further criticism or wishes for the next video, leave them down in the comments below. I think I'm going to do a PvP oriented video soon, once I actually get to play some PvP. Right now I've done pretty much only PvE this far, so I cannot talk too much about it yet. And other than that, I hope you are having a great time in Aion 2. And I see you again in the next video. Have a great time.